The year I died of illness in a side courtyard of the Gu family, only one old servant came from my maiden home. He passed on my mother's message. She said that all these years I had made both families restless and miserable. Now that I was gone, it could count as leaving the living a little peace. My elder brother did not even offer a single stick of incense before my spirit tablet. He said I had stolen Yunyang's marriage, and that ending this way was something I had brought upon myself. Gu Yunzhao was even more direct. He ordered people to take down the red curtains and said, "Yunyang is weak. Once my mourning period for my wife is over, I will bring her into the manor." In my previous life I had been wrong to an absurd degree. I clearly knew Gu Yunzhao had someone in his heart, yet I pretended to be ill, threw myself into the water, and caused such a storm throughout the capital that he had no choice but to marry me. For 5 years after our marriage, I begged, cried, and even gambled with my life. In the end, even death could not make him look at me one more time. When I opened my eyes again, I had returned to the day in the palace when female officials were being chosen. The empress asked whether I wanted to remain in the capital. In my previous life, I begged her to grant me marriage with Gu Yunzhao. This time, I lowered my hands and said, "This subject's daughter is willing to enter the Bureau of Palace Administration." Palace rules were strict. Female officials could not marry privately. Gu Yunzhao would no longer have to be dragged down by me. Yunyang would no longer have to wait for me to die. Inside the hall, incense smoke curled upward. The empress sat behind a beaded curtain. Beside her lay a register of candidates for palace service. I knelt beneath the sandalwood staff. Loose strands of hair fell over my forehead. My fingers hid inside my sleeves and dug little by little into my palm. It hurt. This body was still young. My fingertips were round and my palms were soft. They did not have the swelling left by long illness, nor the cold that could not be warmed before death. The empress gently turned a page. Her voice was mild. "Shen Qingwan, your father says you have studied fairly diligently since childhood. If you are willing to remain in the capital, I can choose a good marriage for you." I lowered my head. In my previous life, I had waited too long for this sentence. At that time, I lifted my head and begged the empress through tears, saying that I only wanted to marry Yunzhao. All the female officials and palace servants in the hall looked at me. My knees had gone numb from kneeling, and my voice had turned hoarse from crying. "Your Majesty, this subject's daughter and young Master Gu have known each other since youth. In this life, I only wish to marry him." It was true that we had known each other since youth. It was also true that he did not like me. The one he liked was Lin Yunyang. She was the orphaned daughter of my mother's close friend and had lived in the Shen household for many years. She was gentle, quiet, and weak. Even when she coughed, she made people ache for her. I, however, had been willful since childhood. If he retreated, I insisted on advancing. If his eyes reddened, I insisted even more on winning. Later, I created such an uproar in the capital that the empress spoke and granted the marriage. The Gu family did not dare resist an imperial order, and Gu Yunzhao could not resist either. On the day he married me, even his wedding robes looked cold and empty. When my veil was first lifted, he only glanced at me once. "Shen Qingwan, are you satisfied now?" Back then, I thought we still had a long future. Now that I had returned to that day, I finally knew the future was not long at all. 5 years in a remote courtyard, a cold stove, bitter medicine, an empty bed, servants' contempt pressing into my belly, then after death, not even a decent coffin. The empress waited for a moment, then asked, "You do not want to marry?" I bowed my head to the floor. "This subject's daughter is willing to enter the Bureau of Palace Administration." Behind the beaded curtain, silence settled. The list of female officials was clear and orderly. The empress seemed somewhat surprised. "Do you understand? Once you enter the Bureau of Palace Administration, you will hold an official position. Palace rules are strict, and you cannot easily bargain your way out. Female officials also cannot marry privately. This subject's daughter understands. You will not regret it?" I closed my eyes. The words Gu Yunzhao had said before I died in my previous life scraped past my earbones like cold wind. If she had figured it out earlier, all of us could have suffered a few years less. I said softly, "This subject's daughter will not regret it." The empress looked at me for a long time and finally said, "Raise your head." I raised my head. Through the curtain, she looked at me with a trace of inquiry in her eyes. "I heard you used to be very close to the Gu family's young master." I lowered my eyes. "I was young and ignorant and troubled young Master Gu. Now I understand." "You understand?" I nodded lightly. "I understand." The empress tapped the register. "The Bureau of Palace Administration does not accept people who come merely to avoid trouble, nor people who come in a moment of anger. If you enter the palace, you can only remain by your own ability. You will start from the lowest rank as a ledger clerk. Every day, you will check accounts, calculate expenses, and inspect stores. If you make one mistake, you will be punished according to regulations." Instead, I felt relieved. This subject's daughter is willing. One mistake, one punishment. Good. Palace rules are clear. Where the mistake is, the punishment falls there. Unlike the Gu family, there my mistake had been stealing someone else's place. Afterward, even breathing had become a mistake. The Empress finally smiled. In that case, enter the Bureau of Palace Administration 3 days from now. I kowtowed. This subject's daughter thanks your majesty for your grace. When I left the palace, the wind blew across the long street. The palace walls rose high, their red color steady and solemn. Bitao supported me. Her voice was still trembling. Miss, you really want to enter the palace and become a female official? Yes. But female officials cannot marry. I smiled. That is perfect. Her eyes reddened as she looked at me. Miss, didn't you used to want most to marry young Master Gu? I stopped. At the end of the long street, Gu Yunzhao was standing outside the palace gate. Today he wore a bamboo green brocade robe. His shoulders and back were straight, his brows and eyes cool. Lin Yunyang stood beside him, wearing a pale white cloak. Her face was somewhat pale, and she held a handkerchief in her fingers. When she saw me, she was the first to call softly, Sister Qingwan. Gu Yunzhao, however, looked at me. Why are you entering the palace? I saluted him. Young Master Gu. His brows drew together, probably because he was unused to me addressing him so formally. In the past, whenever I saw him, I would always rush forward and call him Brother Yunzhao in a spoiled voice, my heart in chaos. I continued. By Her Majesty's grace, I have been permitted to enter the Bureau of Palace Administration as a ledger maid. Lin Yunyang's fingers tightened around her handkerchief. Gu Yunzhao's expression also changed. A ledger maid? Are you mad? I raised my eyes to him. Young Master Gu, please mind your words before the palace gate. He seemed to be pricked by that sentence. I did not want to stay any longer. I had just taken a step when Lin Yunyang spoke softly. Sister, are you still blaming me? I stopped, her eyes had already reddened. If it is because last time, when I was ill, I mistakenly used the medicine meant for you, and that is why you want to enter the palace to avoid me, I can speak to Auntie and move to another courtyard. Again, it was this kind of sentence. She placed herself in the most wronged position. In the past, I would immediately explode. I would say, stop pretending to be pitiful. I would say, you clearly knew that medicine was something I had begged for. I would say, you deliberately made mother feel sorry for you. Then everyone would frown, and Gu Yunzhao would stand in front of her. Shen Qingwan, Yunyang is weak. Must you haggle over one bowl of medicine with her? This time I only said, Miss Lin, you are overthinking it. Entering the palace is my choice. It has nothing to do with you. Tears gathered in her eyes, about to fall. Sister, I interrupted her. In the future, I will hold a post in the palace. Miss Lin, do not address me that way again. It is improper. After saying that, I took Bitao down the long street. Gu Yunzhao's gaze remained on my back the whole time. I did not look back. When I returned to the Shen household, mother had already received the news. In the front hall were father, mother, and my elder brother, Shen Shuan. Lin Yunyang had also returned before me and was sitting beside mother with reddened eyes. The moment my brother saw me, his expression sank. Shen Qingwan, what trouble are you causing now? I stood at the doorway. That sentence was too familiar. In my previous life, every time I caused trouble, he asked me that. When I forced Gu Yunzhao to marry me, he asked me that too. Later, after I died, when someone sent over a straw mat, he said I had brought it on myself. At that time, I hated him. I hated that he had clearly doted on me since childhood. Yet in the end, he did not even offer incense before my spirit. Now, looking at his young face, the hatred instead faded. He had been dragged down by me for many years, but he had also protected me for many years. Mother spoke first. You truly begged the Empress to enter the Bureau of Palace Administration? I saluted. Yes, mother. Her eyes reddened at once. Are you still blaming me for giving the medicine to Yunyang? My brother frowned. It was only one bowl of medicine. Are you going to gamble away your whole life over it? Lin Yunyang hurriedly said, Elder brother, don't say that. If I had known that medicine was for sister, I absolutely would not have accepted it. Mother patted her hand gently. You are weak. Since you used it, you used it. Qingwan has a hard life. What can happen from drinking one bowl less? I listened quietly. That sentence was familiar too. In my previous life, after I married, I became gravely ill. The Gu family came to the Shen household for medicine. Mother knew that medicine could save a life, yet she first asked, has Yunyang been thirsty lately? Later, that pot of medicine was delivered to Yunyang. While ill, she said through tears that she did not mean to steal my medicine. But the person who drank it in the end was still her. I looked at mother and said softly, Mother is right. Mother froze. I continued, my life is hard. I can endure entering the palace too. My brother's expression grew even uglier. Qingwan, don't speak so sarcastically. I smiled, elder brother, I am not. I only feel that with me in this household, none of you can have peace. After I enter the palace, mother will no longer have to be caught between me and Yunyang. Elder brother will not have to clean up my messes every day. Young Master Gu will not have to be entangled by me. Is that not good? The courtyard fell silent. Yunyang's tears finally fell. Sister, saying it like that leaves me with no place to stand. I felt tired. In the past, I would have argued. Now I only felt too tired to argue. Miss Lin, if you find it painful, then listen less. I will leave in 3 days. Mother clutched her chest. You really intend to go? I knelt. Your daughter is unfilial. For the next 3 years, I fear I cannot serve at father and mother's knees. Please take care of yourselves. Father remained silent for a long time. He had never liked handling inner household matters. In the past, when he saw me making a scene, he only frowned and told mother to discipline me. Today he looked at me, and for the first time there was hesitation in his eyes. The Bureau of Palace Administration is hard. I kowtowed. Your daughter knows. If you cannot endure it, the Shen family may not be able to bring you back immediately. Your daughter understands. My brother suddenly stood. I will go ask Her Majesty to take back the order. I raised my head. Elder brother. His steps stopped. I said, do not clean up after me again. This time I chose it myself. Shen Shuan stood frozen in place. I turned and returned to my courtyard. Batao cried while packing my trunks. Miss, this servant will go with you to the Bureau of Palace Administration. Household maids are not allowed. She cried even harder. Then who will take care of you alone in the palace? I placed a silver bracelet into her hand. Go to grandmother's courtyard. I have already spoken with the senior maid by grandmother's side. Batao shook her head desperately. I said softly, be good. In my previous life, after I died, only she wanted to collect my body. In this life, I did not want her to suffer with me again. 3 days later, when I entered the palace, the carriage stopped before the Shen family gate. Mother did not come out. Father stood beneath the corridor and watched from afar. My brother did come. He held a bundle in his hand, his face foul. The palace is cold. Take this. I accepted it. Inside were several thick garments and 2 bottles of wound medicine. Thank you, elder brother. His lips moved. He seemed to want to scold me, but in the end he only said, if you are wronged, send someone back with word. I nodded. All right. Lin Yunyang stood at the entrance to mother's courtyard and watched me from afar. She did not come over. Gu Yunzhao did not come either. Good. When the carriage started moving, I lifted the curtain and glanced once at the Shen family gate. I did not cry. I felt no reluctance. I only felt that some place in my chest had finally emptied. From now on, I would no longer have to make myself miserable fighting for anyone's gaze. The Bureau of Palace Administration was colder than I had imagined. Not cold in weather, but cold in rules. Every day, eating, rising, roll call, entering the storehouses, and checking accounts all followed strict regulations. I was assigned to the accounts office. It handled the palace's candles and lighting supplies, as well as the registers of their entry and exit. The female official training me was named Meng Chu Shen. She was in her 30s, with sharp brows and clean, decisive eyes. When she spoke, she never gave half a measure of mercy. On the first day, she threw an old ledger in front of me. Memorize and copy this within 3 days. I lowered my head and looked. Page after page was filled densely with the names and quantities of palace items. She glanced at me. A young lady raised delicately by the Shen family may have held a brush before, but that does not mean she can endure accounts. I did not argue. That night, when I returned to the female official's room, my wrist ached so much I could barely lift it. We slept on a communal bed. The bedding was clean but thin. I lay on the innermost side and listened to several ledger maids whispering beside me. Someone said that, as expected of a Shen family girl, I had received Meng's lesson on the very first day. Someone else said I did look delicate. But unfortunately in the Bureau of Palace Administration, delicacy was useless. I closed my eyes and said nothing. These words were far lighter than the harsh words in the Gu family's side courtyard. There, servants had said to my face, what can madam accomplish by making a fuss? The one in young master's heart is not her. Once she dies and Miss Lin enters the manor, our good days will finally come. At that time, I still had the strength to smash cups. Later, I no longer had the strength to smash anything and could only listen. Now a few pieces of gossip could not hurt me. 3 days later, Meng Chushan tested me. I made 2 mistakes. She punished me and copy accounts for 1 hour. I obeyed. On the 4th day, she tested me again. Not a single error. Only then did Meng Chushan give me another look. Your memory is passable. That was the first sentence of approval I heard after entering the palace. Though it was very faint, I almost wanted to laugh. Days spread out one after another like that. I recorded ledgers, inspected storehouses, wrote registers, and checked omissions. In the palace, every item had an origin. Even 1 red candle had to be written into a register. The first time I saw the category red candles, my hand still trembled. In my previous life, when news of my death reached the Gu family, Gu Yunzhao was choosing wedding candles for Lin Yunyang. Dragon and phoenix patterns, lotus patterns, pomegranate patterns. On my sickbed, even a single oil lamp was almost burned out, yet he was choosing wedding candles for her. Meng Qiushan saw my brush stop and said coldly, "Shen Qingwan," I returned to myself. "You are not allowed to lose focus in front of account books." I lowered my head. Yes. After that day, I became especially attentive to the candle ledgers. Every candle, where it came from, which palace it was sent to, and on what day it was used, I remembered clearly. 1 month after I entered the palace, the Empress summoned me. She looked at my ledgers and asked, "Is the Bureau of Palace Administration bitter?" I answered, "It is manageable." She smiled slightly. "Meng Qiushan says you can endure hardship." I was somewhat surprised. The Empress said, "She rarely praises anyone." I lowered my head. Official Meng teaches well. The Empress looked at me. "Have you regretted it?" I shook my head. "No." She put down the ledger. "The Gu family is visiting cards twice recently, asking whether you are well in the palace." My fingertips paused. The Empress saw it. "Do you want to see him?" My answer came quickly. "No." The Empress seemed satisfied. "Then you will not see him." When I left, the senior maid by the Empress's side handed me a small box. Inside was hand ointment. The maid smiled and said, "Her Majesty said a ledger maid often writes, so you cannot ruin your hands." I accepted the box and suddenly felt my nose sting. Before I entered the palace, everyone thought I had come to hide, to make trouble, or to gamble in anger. Only the Empress truly treated me as a female official. When I returned to the accounts office, Meng Qiushan saw me holding the box and said blandly, "Do not think that because Her Majesty rewarded you with something, you can write even one less entry." I smiled. "I know." She paused. "What are you smiling at?" I shook my head. "Nothing. I only feel this is good too." In the 2nd month, Lin Yunyang fell ill. The news was sent into the palace by Bitao. She was now serving in grandmother's courtyard, and her letter was written carefully. Miss Lin began coughing badly after winter came. Madam watches over her every day. Young Master Gu has come several times to deliver medicine and has also asked how Miss is doing in the palace. Young Master Shen would not let us say much. Only that Miss is busy. After reading the letter, I folded it and placed it in a box. She was ill. Gu Yunzhao delivered medicine. That was the correct path. Without me standing between them, they should have reached each other earlier. I continued copying accounts. A maid from the same room whispered, "Ledger maid Shen. Someone is looking for you outside." When I went out, I saw Shen Shuan standing beneath the corridor outside the gate. He wore a dark blue official robe, and he held a food box. When he saw me, he frowned first. "You have lost." We frowned. "Wait." I saluted. "Elder brother." He thrust the food box at me. "Grandmother had plum cakes made for you. Thank grandmother for me." He looked at my fingers. I subconsciously withdrew them into my sleeve, but he saw. "How did your hands crack like this?" I said. "From writing accounts." His expression turned ugly. "I told you long ago, this place is not suitable for you." "Elder brother, I am doing all right." Shen Shuan stilled. I raised my head and looked at him. Official Meng said my memory is passable. If it had been the past, I would have scorned such praise. How could a compliment from a female official compare to one word of approval from Gu Yunzhao? Now it was different. Shen Shuan looked at me for a long time and said quietly, "You like it here?" I would not call it liking. I thought for a moment. "But here, if you do wrong, you are punished. If you do right, you receive credit. It is very clear." Something moved in his eyes. He probably understood. Shen household and the Gu's household. Many things had never been clear. If Lin Yunyang cried, it was my fault. If Gu Yunzhao's face turned cold, it was my fault. If mother favored her and I made a fuss, that was my fault too. Later I married the wrong person and my whole life became my mistake. "Elder brother," I said, "in the future do not write to tell me about Miss Lin and young Master Gu." He frowned. "You do not want to know?" "I do not." "Truly." I smiled. "Truly." He looked at me as if trying to judge that sentence. At last he raised his hand as if wanting to pat my head like when we were children, but halfway through he lowered it again. "Grandmother misses you very much." My heart softened. "When the new year comes and Her Majesty grants leave, I will go back to see her." He nodded. Before leaving, he said, "I will stop Gu Yunzhao from bothering you." I shook my head. There is no need to stop him deliberately. I am in the palace. He cannot see me anyway. Shen Shuan's expression was still poor. "A few days ago, he asked me whether you were still angry." I lowered my head and smiled. Gu Yunzhao probably still thought my entering the palace was another form of making trouble. In the past, I pretended to be ill, fell into water, cried, begged, and refused food. I used every method available. Now that I had hidden inside palace rules, he naturally thought it was a new tactic. "Elder brother, if you see him again, tell him I am not angry, and I am not waiting for him." Shen Shuan was silent for a moment. "All right." After he left, I carried the food box back to the accounts office. Several ledger maids gathered around with shining eyes. "Ledger maid Shen, your elder brother is truly handsome." I divided the plum cakes among them. Meng Qiushan came out from the inner room and saw us sharing cakes. Has a single ledger been finished? Everyone scattered at once. I also hurried back to my seat. When she passed by me, she took one plum cake. Just this once. I could not help pressing my lips together in a smile. That evening, someone came from the Empress's palace, saying that Gu Yunzhao had requested an audience with Her Majesty and, while doing so, had asked whether he could see me once. The Empress only had someone bring back one sentence. During duty hours, female officials of the Bureau of Palace Administration do not meet unrelated men. After hearing it, the string pulled tight in my heart slowly loosened. Strict palace rules were truly wonderful. Before the new year, the Bureau of Palace Administration inspected old accounts for each palace. I discovered an error. Yaohua Palace had received 20 pairs of dragon and phoenix red candles in the winter month of the previous year, but only 12 pairs were recorded in the ledger. The missing 8 pairs had disappeared. After Meng Qiushan read the account entry I marked, her expression changed slightly. Who handled this account? I found the old register. Liu Ying, a ledger maid formerly of the accounts office, a maid from the same room, reminded me in a low voice. Liu Ying now serves as the managing maid in Yaohua Palace. The one in charge of Yaohua Palace is the noble consort. Her Majesty and the noble consort have never been on good terms. This red candle account could be large or small. If investigated, what it touched would not be only a few pairs of candles. Meng Qiushan looked at me. Are you afraid? I thought for a moment. Yes. She frowned, I continued. But the account is indeed wrong. Meng Qiushan finally smiled. You are not entirely stupid. She took me to see the Empress. The Empress turned through the account book, and her face cooled little by little. Once investigated, it exposed that Yaohua Palace had privately hidden candles and was secretly preparing dowry items for the noble consort's daughter. Palace candles were allotted by fixed regulation. Privately moving palace supplies was a great taboo. For this, the noble consort was reprimanded by the Empress. Liu Ying, the managing maid of Yaohua Palace, was beaten 20 strokes and demoted to the laundry office. Because I had merit in discovering the account error, I was promoted to an 8th rank ledger maid. When the decree came down, everyone in the accounts office came to congratulate me. Meng Qiushan only said coolly, "Promotion is not for happiness, it is for bearing more mistakes." I saluted. I understand. She looked at me with a trace of a smile in her eyes. Tonight, eat 1 extra cake. I smiled too. On New Year's leave, I returned to the Shen household. When grandmother saw me wearing a female official's uniform, her eyes immediately reddened. Our Qingwan is different now. I knelt and kowtowed to her. She pulled me up and touched my hands. Why are they still so cold? Mother sat to the side, looking somewhat uncomfortable. I wonder whether the palace has taken good care of you. I lowered my head. Her Majesty treats me very well. Her mouth opened, then she said nothing. Lin Yunyang also came to grandmother's courtyard. Her face was paler than before winter, and there was a faint scent of medicine on her. Seeing me, she said softly, "Sister Qingwan." I saluted. Her face stiffened. Mother frowned. "Qingwan Yunyang has lived in our family for many years. What is wrong with her calling you sister?" Before I could speak, grandmother said first, "Qingwan is now a female official in the palace. Being careful with titles is not wrong." Mother was stopped short. Lin Yunyang forced a smile. "It was my carelessness." At dinner, father asked about palace matters. I chose a few things I was allowed to speak of. When Shen Shuan heard that I had found an incorrect account, his eyes brightened. Not bad. Mother also showed some surprise. "You can read accounts," I smiled. "I read them every day in the Bureau of Palace Administration," Lin Yunyang said softly. "Sister Qingwan was always clever. In the past, she was only spoiled by the family." It sounded like praise, but there was a thorn in it that could not be named. I set down my chopsticks. "Miss Lin, choose your words carefully." She froze. I continued. "A female official on duty in the palace does not dare accept the words spoiled by the family." The table fell silent for a moment. Shen Shuan glanced at me, and there was even a trace of a smile in his eyes. Mother's expression was awkward. Lin Yunyang's eyes reddened again. In the past, whenever her eyes reddened, everyone would condemn me. Today, grandmother only picked up food and placed it in my bowl. "Eat." I lowered my head. Yes, after New Year's dinner, I did not spend the night at home. Before the palace gate was locked, I had to return. When I left, Shen Shuan escorted me to the gate. He suddenly asked, "Were you deliberately speaking that way to her just now?" I looked at him. He held back a smile. It was good. I smiled too. Elder brother used to say I bullied people. He paused. "In the past you did bully people often." I did not refute it. Then he said, "But today you did not." My heart warmed. "Thank you, elder brother." Just as I left Shen Family Alley, the carriage suddenly stopped. Bitao lifted the curtain and looked outside. Her face changed slightly. "Miss, it is young Master Gu." Gu Yunzhao stood in the snow, holding an umbrella. When he saw me, he took 2 steps forward. Shen Qingwan. I sat inside the carriage and did not get down. Young Master Gu, do you need something? His gaze fell on my female official's uniform. Do you truly intend to remain in the palace forever? I nodded, yes. He was silent for a moment. If it is because of me, young Master Gu is overthinking, I said softly. I entered the palace because I wanted to become a female official. It has nothing to do with you. His face turned pale little by little in the snow. It has nothing to do with you. I had said those words several times, but it seemed that only today did he begin to understand them. After I returned to the palace, my promotion brought more work. Meng Chu Shan was transferred to the senior bureau, and I took over half of the accounts office's ledgers. Every day, I worked until late at night and fell asleep the moment I returned to the room. Gu Yunzhao sent things several times, but all were turned back at the palace gate. Later, he asked Shen Shuan to pass on a message. At first Shen Shuan was annoyed, then he simply invited him to a restaurant and beat him up. When the news reached the palace, I was checking storeroom items. A ledger made from my room described it vividly. I heard young Master Gu's mouth was split at the corner by Lord Shen. My brush paused. Why? What else could it be for? She leaned closer and whispered, for you. I said nothing. A few days later, Shen Shuan indeed sent a letter into the palace. There were only a few lines. He asked me whether life in the palace was hard. I told him that when you used to make trouble at home, everyone suffered. Now that you are serving in the palace, it is as if you finally know what you want. His face looked terrible, and I could not resist hitting him. At the end he added 3 words, I used no knife. I looked at those 3 words and laughed aloud. After laughing, I almost wanted to cry. My elder brother was still my elder brother. Only in this life, he finally stopped helping me force a gaze from someone. Instead, he helped block that gaze for me. In spring, the Empress ordered the Bureau of Palace Administration to prepare a spring banquet. I was in charge of the object ledger and was so busy my feet barely touched the ground. On the day of the spring banquet, Lin Yunyang entered the palace with Mother. Her illness seemed somewhat better. She wore a pale pink spring blouse with a pearl hairpin in her side braid. Gu Yunzhao was also at the banquet. The two of them stood some distance apart, not together. I was carrying a register along the corridor when Miss Lin called me. Ledger maid Shen, I stopped and saluted. Miss Lin. She looked at me with complicated eyes. You really look like someone from the palace now. My duty requires it. She coughed lightly. I ordered the young palace maid behind me to fetch hot water. Yunyang froze. You are still willing to take care of me? I found the question strange. Miss Lin is a guest of the palace. If your cough is severe, the Bureau of Palace Administration should naturally attend to it. Her face turned slightly white. Only because I am a guest? I did not answer. She lowered her voice. Qingwan, in the past, I truly did not mean to steal your things. I looked at her. Spring wind blew past the corridor, and flower shadows fell across her sleeves. There were tears in her eyes. If this were my previous life, I would already have exploded. Now, I only felt tired in my heart. Miss Lin, I do not wish to mention the past again. Her tears fell. But I always feel that you became like this because of me. When I was sick, Auntie gave me medicine. When I cried, everyone blamed you. After you entered the palace, Auntie often stared at your courtyard in a daze. Elder brother Shen also does not speak much to me anymore. Young Master Gu even. She stopped. I finished for her. He also no longer visits you much. Lin Yunyang's face turned deathly pale. I closed the register. Then Miss Lin should ask them, not ask me. I have already moved out of the Shen household and stepped away from between you all. If you still feel uneasy, what you should think about is not why I left, but where you yourself are standing. She froze. I did not remain. When I turned, Gu Yunzhao was standing not far away. He had probably heard us. I nodded to him and was about to leave. He suddenly spoke. Shen Qingwan, are you this cold toward everyone now? I stopped. Young Master Gu, this is the palace. I am only following rules. There was pain in his eyes. You used to hate rules most. I looked at him. People change, he said hoarsely. I dreamed of you. My fingers tightened. I dreamed of you in the Gu family's side courtyard. I dreamed you were very ill. I dreamed I was choosing red candles for Yunia. His voice grew rougher word by word. In the dream, someone came to report that you were gone, I said. He did not continue, but I knew what he had said. If she had figured it out earlier, all of us could have suffered a few years less. I looked at him and asked very calmly, Young Master Gu, have you figured it out now? His face went pale. I continued. The Shen Qingwan in the dream is already dead. The Shen Qingwan in the palace still has ledgers to check. Gu Yunzhao fell ill. Shen Shuan wrote to tell me. In the letter, he said Gu Yunzhao had developed a high fever after returning from the palace banquet and kept calling my name in his dreams. After reading it, I put the letter away. A ledger maid from my room asked, Ledger maid Shen, you are not replying? She sighed. Your heart is truly hard, I smiled. Harder is better. If it is soft, people step on it until it breaks. In the 4th month, the palace had to repair an old storehouse. I was ordered to take people to inventory abandoned screens and old wooden chests. The old storehouse had not been opened for many years, and the dust was heavy. The young palace maids covered their noses and complained. I told them to carry the boxes out first and set them in the sun. When we moved the last one, a corner of the roof beam suddenly collapsed. I had no time to dodge and was pinned under a fallen wooden frame. Pain turned my vision black. When I woke again, I was in a side room of the Bureau of Palace Administration. The imperial physician was wrapping my arm, and the senior maid from the Empress's side was also there. The bone is not broken, but the tendons are injured. You need to rest for a while. I breathed a sigh of relief. The ledgers. The senior maid did not know whether to laugh or cry. Her Majesty said someone else will handle the ledgers. You must first nurse your hand. I looked down at my right hand, wrapped tightly in bandages, and felt lost. For these 2 years I had used it to write every day, to close account books, to count and inspect. Suddenly, unable to write, I felt as if a piece of my heart had emptied. At dusk, Meng Qiushan came to see me. She was already a senior female official, yet she still had the same cold face. I heard that the first thing you asked after waking was about the ledgers. I felt somewhat embarrassed. Habit. She placed the missing account register beside my bed. My eyes lit up. She said coldly, "You may look, you may not write." I smiled. "Thank you, Sister Meng." She froze. The tips of her ears seemed a little red. "Who is your sister?" After saying that, she left. During the days my hand was injured, I was rarely idle. The Empress rewarded me with medicine. Grandmother also had someone send tonic soup. Shen Xuan personally submitted a visiting card and entered the palace to see me. The moment he saw me, he frowned. "You can even get yourself smashed in the palace?" I smiled. It was an accident. Seeing that I was still smiling, his face grew darker. Gu Yunzhao also knows. I lowered my head. "Oh, he wants to see you." "I will not see him." Shen Xuan nodded. I knew it. He sat down and suddenly said, "Qingwan, are the things in Gu Yunzhao's dream true?" I fell silent. He looked at my bandaged hand, his voice lowering. "I dreamed it too." I jerked my head up. Shen Xuan's eyes were somewhat red. "I dreamed you died in the Gu family's side courtyard. I did not go. I only had someone send a straw mat." His voice was hoarse. After I woke, my hands were shaking. How could I have done that? I looked at him. The resentment from my previous life suddenly surged up like a tide, then slowly receded. "Elder brother, at that time, perhaps you did not arrive in time." He froze. I continued. "Or perhaps it was not that you did not want to come. It was that everyone thought you would not want to come." Shen Xuan's tears fell at once. He raised a hand to cover his eyes. "Qingwan, I wronged you." My eyes heated. "Not in this life." "In this life, elder brother came to send me into the palace, sent me plum cakes, and even beat Gu Yunzhao for me." He laughed and cried at once because of what I said. "That counts? It counts." He lowered his head for a long time, then said, "Then from now on, let it count too." I nodded. "All right." In the end, Gu Yunzhao did not get to see me. After the Empress learned that he had waited outside the palace gate for 2 hours, she only instructed coolly, "Female historian Shen is injured and needs rest. Tell young Master Gu to return." When the senior maid told me, I was slowly turning account pages with my left hand. She said, young Master Gu's face looked frighteningly pale when he left. I lowered my head and looked at the ledger. The senior maid glanced at me. "You do not feel sorry for him?" I thought for a moment. "I feel sorrier for myself." The senior maid smiled. "That is right." My hand ached for a month before I could hold a brush again. On the day I resumed writing, Meng Qiushan personally watched me write for half the night. "Acceptable." I smiled. "Only acceptable?" "Uglier than before." "Sister Meng," she frowned. "Do not act spoiled." I straightened. The word spoiled felt very far from me. In the past, I acted spoiled with mother, with elder brother, with Gu Yunzhao, until later all of them thought I was unreasonable. Now Meng Qiushan's words, "Do not act spoiled," carried no disgust. It was only that she disliked me delaying her ledger work. I lowered my head and smiled. "I know." At the start of summer, the Empress transferred me to the senior bureau to assist Meng Qiushan in managing banquets and ritual implements. This counted as a promotion. When I moved out of the accounts office, the ledger maids from my room wrapped cakes for me. Some cried, and some laughed. Only then did I realize I had actually gained friends. They were not won by fighting, nor gained by making scenes. They were built day by staying up late over ledgers and sharing cakes. In the 7th month, Lin Yunyang left the Shen household. She did not marry Gu Yunzhao, nor did she remain in the capital. According to grandmother's letter, she went south to live with an aunt. Before leaving, she left me a letter. The letter was very thick. I opened it and sat a long time after reading it. In it, she said that during those years living in the Shen household, she had also always been afraid. Afraid of being driven away, afraid that her illness would burden others, afraid I would hate her, and afraid that mother's pity would one day be taken back. So she learned to cry, learned to retreat, learned not to say what she wanted, yet let others offer things into her hands. She said that was not innocence. It was only that she had not dared admit it before. At the end, she wrote, "Qingwan, I owe you an apology, and I also owe myself a road that does not depend on others. I am going south to recover from illness and learn to support myself." I placed the letter into a box and did not reply. But that day, I had someone send a box of cough pills commonly used in the palace to the south. The signature written on it was Bureau of Palace Administration. It was not Shen Qingwan. Gu Yunzhao came once more. This time, I had left the palace on duty to purchase ceremonial vessels. He stood outside the vessel shop and seemed to have waited for a long time. 2 young female officials followed me. He therefore did not come too close. "Female official Shen," I returned the salute. "Young Master Gu." He looked at me, many words in his eyes. In the end, he only asked, "Has your hand recovered?" "It has." "That is good." After saying that, he actually did not bother me further. I was somewhat surprised. He said quietly, "Yunyang has left." I nodded. "I heard. I did not keep her." He looked at the people flowing along the street. "I often think that if you had not entered the palace then, what would have happened?" I did not answer. He answered himself. "Probably another mistake." I looked at him. His eyes were red, yet he smiled slightly. "You were right to leave, Shen Qingwan. You were very right to leave." My heart moved lightly. I was not touched. I only felt that Gu Yunzhao, who in the dream had coldly said I should have figured it out earlier, had finally learned to speak a little like a human being. He took out a wooden box from his sleeve. I did not accept it. He said quietly, "This is not a gift for you. It is the money for those piles of red candles in the dream." I froze. He placed the box on the stone step beside him. I asked the Bureau of Palace Administration. "In the palace, there are female officials who retire because of illness and have nowhere to go. If you are willing, use this silver to add a room for them to recover in." I looked at the box for a long time, then had the female official behind me accept it. "I will enter it into the accounts." Gu Yunzhao nodded. "Good." He took a step back. He did not call my name again and did not say he would wait for me. He only saluted. "Female official Shen, take care." I returned the salute. "Young Master Gu, take care too." This farewell seemed finally to cut an old thread. 2 years later, I became a managing female official of the senior bureau, while Meng Qiushan was promoted to chief of palace administration. The empress smiled and said that her cold face could finally go manage even more people. Meng Qiushan only answered, "This subject obeys the decree." I nearly laughed aloud at the sight. Later, she asked me what I was laughing at. I said, "Sister Meng, even as chief of palace administration, you are still exactly the same." She glanced at me. "You are not much better. The young maids all fear you now." I froze. "They fear me?" "Yes, they say manage official Shen can pick out even one wrong thread." I could not help laughing. "That is fine too. Better than being called a jealous woman who stole someone else's marriage." After the refuge for ill-retired female officials was completed, the empress granted it the name Changchun Lodge. I personally went to see it. The small courtyard stood behind the western lane, with several pomegranate trees planted inside. Those female officials who had withdrawn due to illness finally had a place to live. I entered the silver from Gu Yunzhao's wooden box into the first account register under the name Anonymous Donation, East Wing of Changchun Lodge. He never came to ask again. I heard later that he was sent out to serve elsewhere and did not return for 3 years. The Shen family also changed greatly. My brother married. My sister-in-law was brisk and straightforward. She could ride horses and manage accounts. The first time she met me, she stuffed a packet of homemade dried meat into my hand. Mother aged somewhat. When she saw me again, she was always a little cautious. One year, when I returned home to visit grandmother, Mother held my hand and suddenly said, "Qingwan, the year you entered the palace, I always thought you resented me." I looked at her. Her eyes reddened. Later, before Yunyang left, she told me that I gave her too much pity she should not have carried, and gave you too many grievances you should not have suffered. I said nothing. Mother choked out. It was Mother's fault. Those words came very late. So late that I no longer looked forward to them day and night. But when they came, I was still sad for a while. I said softly, "It is all in the past." She cried even harder. I did not rush into her arms the way I once would have. I only handed her a handkerchief. Some mother-daughter bonds, once broken, leave traces. Being able to speak again was already good. Grandmother's health remained strong. She liked most to see me in female official robes. Every time, she would touch the cuff and say, "Our Qingwan has her own bearing now." I smiled. Grandmother says that every time. She smiled too. I never tire of it. People in the palace advised me that when I reached the proper age, I could ask the empress to release me and arrange a marriage. The empress also asked me once, "If you wish to leave the palace, I can arrange it for you." I thought for a very long time. "Then the subject wishes to stay. You do not want to marry?" I smiled. "Not for now." There are many accounts and many ritual implements in the palace. This subject can still manage them. The empress smiled. Then manage them. I stayed. Not because the palace walls trapped me, but because I had finally chosen a road I could walk by myself. The year Gu Yunzhao returned to the capital, I was 24. He had been transferred into the Ministry of Rites. The first time he entered the palace on official business, he happened to meet me while I was inspecting new palace vessels. He was steadier than before. His brows and eyes were still handsome, but the cold hardness of his youth had faded. When he saw me from afar, he stopped. Managing official Shen, I returned the salute. Lord Gu. We stood on the palace path, 3 steps apart. He looked at the female officials and register behind me and said softly, "You are doing very well now." I smiled. Yes. This time, I did not act modest. I truly was doing very well. I had rank, duties, Changchun Lodge that I had helped build, and a group of young maids who feared me yet still slipped me cakes. He nodded. That is good. He did not mention dreams or the past. He only took a document from his sleeve. The Ministry of Rites' list of newly offered ceremonial vessels. Please, have the senior bureau check it. I accepted it. I will return a receipt in 3 days. Thank you for the trouble. When we brushed past each other, he suddenly stopped. Shen Qingwan. I turned back. He looked as if he wanted to say something. In the end, he only said, "Thank you." I did not understand. He looked toward the end of the palace wall. If you had not left back then, I probably would have spent my whole life unable to distinguish guilt, habit, and liking. Only after serving away from the capital for several years did I understand that people cannot rely on someone else's crying and making scenes to decide whom they should love, nor can they wait until someone dies to know what they owe. I listened quietly. The wind blew across the palace path and rolled up a few fallen leaves. He withdrew his gaze. Changchun Lodge is good, I went to see it, I said. That is a place for the palace's female officials. Yes, he said softly. It is warmer than the side courtyard in the dream. The words were so light they almost scattered into the wind, but I heard them. I did not answer. He did not wait for an answer either. After saluting, he turned and left. After that, we occasionally met in the palace. We were only Lord Gu and managing official Shen, proper, courteous, and clear. That was very good. Several years later, Meng Qiushan retired due to illness. She refused to return to her hometown, saying she had spent half her life in the palace and would not know where to go outside. I personally escorted her to Changchun Lodge. Standing beneath the pomegranate trees, her eyes reddened for once. Shen Qingwan, you really know how to arrange a retreat for people. I smiled. I learned it from Sister Meng. She glanced at me. I did not teach you that. You taught me that accounts must be clear, and people must also be clear. Meng Qiushan was silent for a moment. And you yourself? I knew what she was asking. I looked at the old female officials in the courtyard. Some were sewing, some were brewing medicine, and some sat under the corridor dozing in the sun. I said softly, I am also very clear. I owe no one and I am waiting for no one. She nodded. Good. Many years later, Miss Lin returned to the capital once. She had married a medicine merchant in the south. He was not from a noble family, but in her letters, she said he treated her very well. The medicine shop always kept cough pills. When her cough was severe, he sat beneath the lamp and brewed medicine for her. When she entered the palace to see me, she wore plain elegant clothes. Her complexion was still not rosy, but her brows and eyes were relaxed. Chief Shen, she saluted me. I helped her up. Miss Lin, she smiled. You still call me that. I smiled too. I am used to it. She took out a small wooden box. Candied medicine from the south. It is not valuable. Let the female officials of Changchun Lodge sweeten their mouths. I accepted it. Thank you. She looked at me for a long time and said softly, Qingwan, all these years, I often wonder if you had not entered the palace. I said, it is all past. She nodded. Yes, it is past. Before she left the palace, she suddenly hugged me very lightly, like finally putting down an old thorn she had not dared touch for many years. I did not push her away, nor did I hug her back. I only stood there and waited for her to let go first. That was enough. That winter, the Empress became gravely ill. Before she died, she placed the Bureau of Palace Administration into my hands. Shen Qingwan. She was already very weak, yet still looked at me. When I accepted you into the palace, I once thought you would not last 3 months. I smiled, though my eyes reddened. Your Majesty judged wrongly. She smiled too. Yes, I judged wrongly. She held my hand. In the future, if the palace's female officials have somewhere to go, let them go. If they have nowhere to go, Changchun Lodge must keep its doors open. I knelt before her. This subject will remember. After the Empress passed away, I kept vigil for 7 full days. During those 7 days, I often remembered the first time I knelt before her. She asked me whether I would regret it. At that time, my answer had been very light. Only now did I understand that it had been the heaviest choice of my life. 12 years later, I became Chief of Palace Administration, Chief Shen. The newly arrived young maids in the palace were all afraid of me. They said I was strict in checking accounts, accurate in judging people, and that when I did not smile, I looked as if I could freeze someone solid. After hearing this, I looked seriously into a mirror. Indeed, I did not love smiling much. When Meng Qiushan heard about it at Changchun Lodge, she laughed until she coughed for half a day and had someone send me a message. Serves you right, I brought candied medicine to see her. She leaned beneath the corridor. Her hair had turned much whiter. I placed the medicine on the table. Yunyang sent it. She raised an eyebrow. She still remembers? Yes. And Gu Yun Zhao? I thought for a moment. A few days ago, a Ministry of Rights document had an error, and I returned it. Meng Qiushan laughed. You truly leave no room for sentiment. I laughed too. If an official document is wrong, it should be returned. She nodded. Good. In the courtyard, the pomegranate trees had already borne fruit. The red color was very bright. When I was 40, a young female historian in the palace almost cried while checking old accounts. She had found a chest of early-year red candles. On the chest was a faded seal. The register read, "Old account recovered from Yahua Palace, candles returned to storage." I stood before the storeroom door and looked at that chest of red candles for a long time without speaking. The young historian was uneasy. Chief, should these candles still be kept? I picked up one pair. Dragon and Phoenix pattern, lotus base. It looked very much like the pair Gu Yunzhao had chosen for Lin Yunyang in the dream. But now they were only a chest of expired old candles. I put them back. Send them to Changchun Lodge. The young maid froze. Red candles? I smiled. At night when Changchun Lodge reads, it uses lamps. Red candles are candles too, she answered and went to handle it. That night many red candles were lit at Changchun Lodge. The old female officials gathered together to play cards. Candlelight reflected on everyone's face, and there was actually a faint sense of celebration. Meng Qiushan sat beneath the corridor, criticizing them with her mouth while smiling with her eyes. I stood at the courtyard gate and watched for a long time. Suddenly I felt that the pair of wedding candles that came too late in my previous life had finally changed places. They no longer illuminated a bridal chamber, nor a side courtyard soaked with cold illness. They illuminated a group of women who had once spent their youth inside the palace, giving their later years a little warmth and liveliness. That was good. Before Gu Yunzhao retired from office, he came to the Bureau of Palace Administration to submit one final Ministry of Rights document. There was already white at his temples. I was no longer young either. He placed the document down and smiled. Chief Shen, are there any mistakes this time? I flipped through 2 pages. None for now. Good. He stood beneath the eaves and was silent for a moment. I am leaving the capital. I raised my head. Returning home? Yes, take care. He nodded. When he reached the door, he turned back to look at me. Shen Qingwan. This time I did not correct his form of address. He said, if there is another life. Halfway through he stopped himself. Then he smiled. Forget it. In this life you lived very well. I smiled too. Yes, I lived very well. After he left, I continued reading the document. Sunlight entered through the window curtains of the Bureau of Palace Administration and fell over the desk in bright squares. A young maid came in with tea. Seeing me smiling, she grew bold. Chief, are you in a very good mood today? I lifted the tea. Yes, the accounts are light today. She did not understand and I did not explain. At dusk, I went to Changchun Lodge. The red candles had already burned out, leaving only short stubs. Several old female officials in the courtyard were discussing which ripe pomegranates to pick and divide tomorrow. Meng Qiushan sat lazily beneath the corridor and looked at me. Here to inspect accounts again? I sat beside her. To sun myself, she snorted. At your age, still learning to slack off? I looked at the setting sun in the courtyard. Occasionally. Many years ago, I died of illness in the Gu family's side courtyard. No one collected my body. No one lit a lamp for me. At that time, I thought my life had rotted through and could never turn back. Later, I walked through the palace gate and became the smallest female clerk. Day after day, I worked with accounts and inspections, marking out every error and omission, and bit by bit, I also marked my own mistaken fate clean. Now that I think of it, strict palace rules also gave me freedom. It was truly good that female officials could not marry privately. I no longer had to marry anyone to prove I was loved. I no longer had to wait for anyone to look back after my death to prove I was worth seeing. This life of mine finally belonged to me. Story 2 Earth gave birth to a little golden spirit. My father was so sick he was about to breathe his last. My mother went up the mountain to dig wild vegetables, but instead of finding food, she dug me out of the soil. She screamed in fright again and again. She had clearly tied a red string around a ginseng root. How had she dug out a fair, plump little girl instead? Then she began to cry. Heavens, who buried such a good child alive? On the day she carried me home, not one person in the family was happy. But that night, the household's only egg was placed in my bowl. That same night, the family's old hen faced the sky and blasted eggs for half the night. The whole family ate until their bellies were round. Later, my father, who had been paralyzed in bed, could walk as if flying. Every day he ran 50 laps around the village. My little aunt, who had been deaf and mute, climbed onto the roof before dawn every day to sing, which attracted a rich and devoted young man. My mother gave birth one child after another. Later, whenever my father entered the room, he would be beaten. Still later, my eldest aunt, who had been driven back by her husband's family because she could not have children, became pregnant after remarrying. I jumped into the kitchen pot to cook fertility soup for her. When my mother saw me being boiled in the pot, she was so frightened that she chased my father and beat him. I told you to cook for eldest sister. Who told you to boil the child? My mother sat at the table, holding me with a timid, shrunken posture. Originally, she had promised to go dig mountain ginseng. In the end, she did not dig up ginseng but instead brought home another mouth that only knew how to eat. For our family, already unable to keep the pot boiling, it was adding frost to snow. A dozen members of the family stared at me with wide eyes. Mother wiped her tears with a sleeve covered in patches. Fortunately, I ran fast. Otherwise, she would have stopped breathing. I quickly explained. There was breath. Whoosh whoosh breath. There is breath in the soil too. We should never have let you go out, grandmother snapped. Furious. You brought back such a big burden. She banged things around and left the room. I said, Mother, bury me back. Mother cried so hard she could barely speak. What have we forced this child into? Such a small child, and she already does not want to live. That night, the family boiled one egg. No one was willing to eat it. They placed it in my bowl. Why are you not eating? I asked. Grandmother cursed. How many eggs can one chicken lay in one day? If everyone ate eggs, smoke would come out of the chicken's backside. Say another foolish word and I will throw you out. I obediently ate the egg. After dinner, Mother searched through the house for a long while, and, amid grandmother's scolding, found a half-old piece of red flowered cloth to make me a little belly band. After everyone fell asleep, I secretly slipped to the chicken coop and gently patted the old hen's backside. Be good. I will give you something tasty. I pulled off a ginseng whisker and fed it to her. At dawn the next day, we heard Mother scream. Come quickly, our chicken is exploding eggs. Everyone rushed out. The old hen had her backside raised and was hopping toward the sky. Eggs flew out one after another with a pop, each landing steadily in the water basin. By the end of the morning, the basin was packed full of eggs, more than 20 of them. The old hen had lost 2 circles of weight and her legs shook, but no smoke came from her backside. That day, the whole family got to eat eggs. Mother had me divide the eggs among everyone. I said, grandfather, grandmother, father, aunties, sister, eat eggs. No one objected, but everyone, without planning it, broke off an extra piece from their own portion and quietly placed it into my bowl. One mouthful of food from each of us can still keep a child alive. From now on, she is our family's girl. That night, I secretly went again to feed the old hen ginseng whiskers. Instead, I heard father telling mother his final wishes. I will not last. After I leave, if you do not wish to remarry, then the old and young in the family will be entrusted to you. If you find someone you like, do not feel guilty. Go if you should go. No one in the family will stop you. Mother even secretly prepared some dowry for you. Mother cried so hard she could not speak. She only kept calling, Brother Schwanzi. Finally, father said he was thirsty. Only then did she wipe her tears and go out. After a while, the whole family came. Grandmother with her lame leg, grandfather with his blind eyes, little aunt who was deaf and mute, and mother who was crying until she shook, filled the room with wails. Father lay there motionless. His body had already become stiff. Mother cried until she fainted. Everyone hurriedly carried her away. While no one was paying attention, I quietly walked to father. His face carried a pale, deathly green color, but he still forced his eyes open to look at me. Little girl, if your mother remarries in the future, you are not allowed to follow her. Do you hear me? Stay properly in our family. The family will not let you starve. I blinked at him. Why let mother remarry? Father's eyes reddened. I am afraid your mother will suffer. She has suffered enough in this life. Remember, little girl, your mother picked you up. She did you a kindness. You cannot drag her down. If she does not bring a child with her, she can still find a good family. I asked, then will you not miss her? Dead people do not miss others. All right, I am tired. Little girl, go out. Father lay still again, and the rise and fall of his chest grew weaker and weaker. He was about to be gone. Then came the crash of a bowl shattering. Mother rushed in from the doorway, crying, and threw her arms around father. Brother Schwanzi. That night, mother fainted and woke and fainted, over and over. While no one noticed, I stuffed a ginseng whisker into father's mouth. Father, do you have any wish? I want, before I die, to chop a courtyard full of firewood for your mother and fill the water jar, so she will not have to work so hard. All right. After mother woke, she cried and insisted on keeping vigil beside father. Everyone let her. But in the middle of the night, mother's scream came from the courtyard. Do not get up. You have been paralyzed for years. Do not fly, Brother Xuanzi. Father, who had nearly stopped breathing, jumped up in the middle of the night and ran wildly around the courtyard, chopping firewood while carrying water. His movements were quicker than a mountain monkey. Beside him, the old hen clucked while hopping and laying eggs. In the morning, when everyone pushed open the door, they discovered the family courtyard was blocked tightly with firewood. The door could barely open. The eggs filled a whole basin. The old hen, however, was full of energy. Father survived. The family even sold quite a bit of firewood and eggs. Our family finally had enough to eat. Every morning I had eggs. Grandmother said children needed nourishment, and she even raised a goat for me. Every day I had a basin of goat milk. I drank happily. Goat milk was so delicious. Grandmother looked at me drinking milk with disgust all over her face. Your mouth is filthy. Drink more. If you cannot finish it, it will be wasted. Then she looked gloomily at father and mother. If I had a big grandson, this goat milk would not be wasted. 2 little ones would be just enough to drink it. Mother lowered her head, somewhat dejected. Father quickly said, "There is no need to rush. Wasn't my body always bad? Now that I have just recovered, we can take it slowly." Just as he finished speaking, noise sounded at the gate. There were cries coming closer and closer. A haggard woman was shoved through the gate and fell to the ground. Her face was covered in wounds, and she was so thin she had nearly lost her shape. She kept crying. Behind her followed a fierce old woman and a man who looked like a rat. They were cursing as they walked. She has been married into our family for more than a year, and her belly still has not moved. Is she trying to make our Zhao family die without descendants? Your family must give us an explanation. The fierce woman's gaze swept over the courtyard and finally landed on me. Oh, your old Lin family not only has one hen that cannot lay eggs, this eldest branch also has no son and picked up some girl to raise? Looks like your whole first has something wrong with it. Mother had no time to argue. She hurried forward to help the wounded woman up. Second sister, are you all right? Second Aunt Lin Xiaotao cried until her whole body shook. I told you all back then that I damaged my body. It was because I saved your son that I was left with this root of illness. Now you treat me like this? The fierce old Madame Zhao planted her hands on her waist and stamped. If you cannot give birth, you cannot give birth. Do not blame our Zhao family. I am telling you, we do not want a woman who cannot give birth. She looked around the Lin family again and began mocking us. Oh, this family is lame here and blind there. Perhaps this is retribution for too many wicked deeds. A woman who cannot give birth was shoved into my family. Pa, we do not want her. Today we return her to you. As she cursed, she looked toward little aunt. If you still want any connection with our Zhao family, then compensate us with this little girl. But she is disabled too, so becoming a proper wife is impossible. Let her be a maid in the Zhao family first. After she gives birth, we can discuss making her a concubine. Father was so angry he rushed forward to hit them. The mother and son quickly ran. Everyone says the eldest son of the Lin family is dying. Do not let him suddenly blame us. They ran away in a flash. But the Lin family was furious. Second aunt cried until she could barely stand. I have dragged the whole family down. If I had known, I never would have saved that heartless wolf. Only then did I learn that second aunt and that rat spirit uncle had grown up together. The rat spirit liked second aunt, but second aunt did not like him. Unfortunately, once the rat spirit fell into water. Second aunt went down to save him. In the end, both of them nearly drowned, and when they were rescued, they were holding each other. She could only marry the rat spirit. That icy winter water left second aunt ill, and she still had not become pregnant. At night, I went to feed second aunt ginseng whiskers, only to see little aunt hanging a rope from the beam. These days, the Zhao family had been spreading rumors outside, saying that the eldest daughter of the Lin family could not give birth, so the Lin family intended to send their disabled little daughter over as a bed-warming maid in apology. Whenever little aunt went outside, people pointed at her. She had no way to explain and could only return home to wipe tears secretly. Little aunt, do you want to swing to relax? I quietly walked over and hugged her leg. Little aunt, swing, let's swing together. She was startled. After hesitating for a long time, she climbed down from the chair and held me, her eyes looking toward the kitchen while her hands gestured. She was asking whether I was hungry. I nodded obediently. She forgot about dying and only thought of feeding me first. She cooked me a bowl of corn paste porridge, beat an egg into it, and added a few drops of sesame oil. I ate with great enjoyment and shared some with her. At first she refused, but under my insistence, she still tasted a little. The ginseng whisker was fed to her. Little aunt, do you have any wish? She thought for a while, then gestured beyond the wall and toward me. She liked the clean-looking young scholar from the courtyard next door. Every day before dawn, his reading voice would come from next door. Sometimes he also played the zither. I did not know what he played, but it sounded very nice. Little aunt wanted to speak one day, and to sing along with the young scholar's music. I nodded obediently, received. Before dawn the next day, music and singing sounded in the courtyard. The singing was soft and sweet, with tone and color, though the words were still a little stumbling. But the zither deliberately matched her, and it sounded wonderful. The family was used to the sound of zither next door and had all gotten up. But once they entered the courtyard, Mother wailed and cried. She hugged little aunt, tears streaming down her face. Father, Mother, little sister can speak. Before the news could spread, the Zhao family had already carried over a broken sedan chair to fetch her. The rat spirit former brother-in-law lifted his chin until it nearly pointed at the sky. I thought it over and will still give your Lin family some face. I will take her back first, but in the end, she is disabled. If she cannot give birth, she will still have to work in the house. Our family does not feed idle mouths. The villagers all ran over to watch. Hearing him say this, their faces showed anger, but no one spoke. Everyone knew the Lin family's youngest daughter was beautiful, gentle, and elegant, but because she was deaf and mute, no one had been willing to propose marriage. Now that someone was willing to take her, if they spoke, they might ruin her chance. Seeing that no one opposed them, the Zhao family grew even more arrogant. The rat-like man reached out to grab little aunt's hand. A mute girl pretending to be lofty. Someone is willing to marry you and let you continue the family line. You should kneel and thank me. Before he finished speaking, a wooden mallet struck his face. My thin and delicate little aunt held a mallet thicker than her own leg. She was so angry her words stumbled. I will not marry an ugly monster. Disgusting. The Zhao family instantly became the laughingstock of the whole village. Everyone said that when the mute girl of the Lin family heard the Zhao family wanted to marry her, she was so frightened that she could speak. How terrifying must the Zhao family be? Because of this, other matters were dug up. The Zhao family's rat spirit son-in-law had another woman outside. That lover was a widow who already had 3 children, flirtatious enough to charm him out of his senses every day. He did not sleep in second aunt's room at all. He drove second aunt to old Madame Zhao's room to serve the 2 elders. In more than 300 days of a year, the couple spent fewer than 10 days together. Oh my, if husband and wife do not sleep together all year, how could there be children? But don't you think it strange? Leave aside the Lin family's 3rd daughter, who has not married yet. The eldest and second branches both still have no children. Could it be the Lin family really cannot? Then the 3rd daughter is finished. She was already hard to marry when she was mute, and now, before the words finished, a group of people carrying betrothal gifts came with gongs and drums to the Lin family gate. The one in front was the young scholar next door. He had come to propose marriage to little aunt. Little aunt soon married, while the Zhao family was still shouting that no one wanted her. People laughed at them. She is already married into the capital to enjoy fortune. The young scholar next door was the youngest son of a minor official's household. His health was poor, and he feared heat. Every year, when he could not endure the capital's summer heat, he came to the countryside to stay in his old family home. Although little aunt's family background was not high, the Lin family's old master had also left this village once. The young scholar himself was not strong and was only average at study. Most importantly, his elder brothers were too calculating and had married shrewd, powerful wives. If the silly 3rd son fought with them, he would sooner or later be eaten until not even scraps remained. It was better to marry a girl from his old village. Virtuous and simple, that was fine too. Little uncle was not clever, but he loved his wife. He stuck to little aunt every day, and before the silver in his hand could even warm, he wanted to stuff it to little aunt to spend. Father and mother finally relaxed, and then began worrying about second aunt. Second aunt washed her face with tears every day, could not eat or sleep, and would not listen to anything the family said. She only remained sad. I secretly slipped into her room. Second aunt, I will get lost today. I will be lost by the crooked neck tree beside the broken temple on the back mountain. You have to come find me. Second aunt was so upset that she only waved her hand and told me to go play, then lay back down on the bed and cried, until the sky turned dark and father and mother began calling my name all over the courtyard. Jin Jin! Jin Jin! Only when second aunt came out did she learn something had happened. I was missing. The whole family was frantic. Only second aunt's heart thumped. She remembered I had said I would be lost under the crooked neck tree. I had said it so confidently and clearly. She picked up a lantern and went up the mountain to look. I sat quietly beneath the crooked neck tree, waiting for her. From far away, second aunt saw me, and her face sank. You child, why did you run around? Do you know how worried everyone is? What is lying beside you? I touched the man beside me, who was almost out of breath. A person is lying here. A dead person? Second aunt was so frightened her legs went soft. She hugged me into her arms. Are you not afraid? I blinked at her. He is not completely dead, he can still be saved a little. The man indeed did not move and barely breathed, but I had stuffed him with a little ginseng whisker, so in a while he would recover. Second aunt dragged the man back. Though she had become thin and weak lately, a country girl still had strength. Of course I helped too, I dragged one of his legs. That night the man woke. Looking at second aunt, his eyes could not move away. He said second aunt was a fairy. Second aunt laughed with a puff, with a face full of soot and hair like a madwoman. A fairy? This man came back alive, but his brain was burned silly. Second aunt was beautiful, but after being tortured by the Zhao family for many years, she had withered like old tree bark. She could not be nourished back in a short while. I was truly foolish. How had I forgotten this? I was just about to feed second aunt another whisker when I saw the uncle's eyes shining as he looked at her. Little uncle looked at little aunt in exactly the same way. 5 months after little aunt married, she returned home to visit. The Zhao family had heard the news early and continued spreading rumors in the village, saying that the Lin family's women could not have children. Little aunt must have been returned by the rich household. They did not mind her ruined body and were willing to take her back as a concubine. This time, the villagers truly could not bear it. A countryman who can barely fill his stomach dares talk about taking the wife of a county scholar as a concubine. The Zhao family was very proud. If she cannot give birth, making her a concubine is already raising her up. Before the words finished, a gorgeous carriage stopped before our family gate. Little aunt, dressed in silk and satin, stepped down from it. Everyone around gasped. Where did this fairy lady come from? She is so beautiful. The rat spirit former brother-in-law stared until his eyes went straight and immediately walked forward. Lin Xiaoyu, your husband's family returned you, didn't they? Do not worry. Brother-in-law still wants you. Before he finished speaking, several guards beat him until he wailed. Grandfather, though blind, still felt around and struck him several times with his cane. Little uncle supported little aunt. You are for carrying a child. Do not let this scum bump into you. Go inside, quickly. Everyone saw that little aunt's belly was slightly raised. She was clearly pregnant. Old Madame Zhao screamed. How is this possible? The Lin family cannot give birth. She must have stolen a man. Second aunt spat. Your whole family are the ones stealing men. I think it is the Zhao family that cannot give birth. That widow outside carried 3 children in 4 years, but after following you for 3 years, why did she not have even one? It is your Zhao family that cannot give birth. Old man Zhao, could your son also have been born from another man? After all, the men of the Zhao family cannot produce children. Old man Zhao's face changed drastically when he heard this. He no longer cared about saving face and began fighting old Madame Zhao. The rat spirit former brother-in-law truly did not look like old man Zhao, nor even much like old Madame Zhao. Old man Zhao had already had doubts in his heart, and now he felt second aunt's words made sense. The family became a chaotic mess. Little uncle had the guards throw them farther away, and then our whole family went back inside to eat. That day, we ate so much meat. I let the old hen rest for one day. I truly saw smoke coming from her backside. The Zhao family made trouble at home for several days, then could no longer continue. Because the pretty widow who had followed the former brother-in-law also married someone else, and not long after marrying, she said she was pregnant. Now everyone began to wonder. The Zhao family had shouted so loudly, but in the end, who was actually unable to have children? People already disliked the Zhao family's behavior. Now even fewer were willing to marry their daughters into that family. At this point, the Zhao family had no daughter-in-law, and old Madame Zhao was used to second aunt serving her. They prepared to lower themselves and bring second aunt back. But the moment they reached the gate, they ran into the sedan chair of the uncle whom second aunt and I had saved. He had come to propose marriage. The rat spirit former brother-in-law stiffened his neck and was about to curse second aunt for being shameless, but that uncle beat him and hung him from a tree. The Zhao family cried and howled, but could not get him down. However, second aunt did not marry this uncle right away. Second aunt said she knew embroidery and had skills, and wanted to go to the city to try her luck. That uncle took her there. The former brother-in-law hung from the tree for 2 days before the rope wore through and he fell. After recovering for only 2 days, he came again to scold our family, calling us lame and blind. He reminded me. That night, grandmother, who had been lame, suddenly sat up from bed and ran dozens of laps around the courtyard. On the way, she grabbed a weasel that had slipped into the courtyard to steal the old hen and jogged all the way to throw it onto the back mountain. Grandfather stood on the roof, one hand shading his forehead and one hand behind his back, looking everywhere. The wall of old Joe's courtyard next door has a hole. His son is crawling out. Oh my, there is a little girl squatting outside with a bundle in her hand. Tisk, that rat is running all over the courtyard and fell into the chamber pot. Be careful when emptying it tonight. In the village, the eldest branch of the Lin family, which had once been so poor it rattled, now had a healed eldest son who had been gravely ill and paralyzed. The second daughter, who had been tormented by her husband's family, recovered. The deaf and mute third daughter recovered. The blind father-in-law and lame mother-in-law recovered too. Even the daughter-in-law had joyful news. Everyone went wandering around the Lin family ancestral graves to see whether the feng shui treasure land had changed. The Lin family were not fools. By now, they also felt something was wrong. But they still spoiled me when they should spoil me, treated me well when they should treat me well, and asked nothing. Only the old hen at home was always anxious, because grandmother always wanted to kill it and stew soup for me. So it worked especially hard laying eggs. Every morning, the sound of eggs dropping rang out everywhere. Gradually, word spread through the village that the Lin family had picked up a little lucky star. Ever since I entered their home, the Lin family had grown better and better. Father and mother were loving to begin with. After father recovered, the couple worked diligently, and the family visibly improved. Little aunt had married into a good family, and husband and wife were harmonious. Even second aunt, who had been tormented by the Zhao family until she no longer looked human, returned home recently to visit father and mother dressed brightly, saying she had become an embroidery worker in the city. People began running to the Lin family, carrying children of all sizes, saying they wanted to arrange a child betrothal with me. Mother was furious. My daughter is only 3 years old. What child betrothal? Get out! But the matchmakers did not give up. Whenever they had nothing to do, they drove their half-grown sons over to play with me. So our family gained a group of little laborers, tall and short, fat and thin. Father led them to the fields to work busily. I did not have to do anything. I only needed to bathe clean every day and eat happily. I wanted the crops to grow well, but crops had no mouths. There was no way to feed them, so I went to the kitchen and boiled myself in the big water pot. Then I had them pour my bathwater into the fields. That year, our family's harvest was greater than the rest of the village combined. The village chief looked at the wheat stalks in our field, taller than him, and was stunned. But no one expected the news of the little lucky star to spread farther and farther, until it reached the county magistrate's home. The county magistrate's surname was Chen. He was not a good man. When judging disputes for the villagers, he favored whichever side had money. If neither side had money, he became a little more fair. He had been an official for more than 10 years and had no children. His wife was also anxious and had arranged 7 or 8 concubines for him, but none of their bellies moved. When he heard there was a little lucky star who could even cure infertility, he brought people and gifts over that very day, arrogant and overbearing. The child in your family is not bad. This official intends to bring her to the city to enjoy fortune. Pack her things and she will leave now. Then he tossed down a chest of fine silk and 100 taels of silver. Consider this the money for raising the child. Father and mother refused no matter what, holding me while begging him. This is our daughter. She is not going anywhere. Can an official simply steal someone else's daughter? Magistrate Qian sneered. What good is there in following you? In the end, she will only marry a farmer. If she follows this official, things will be different. This little girl is pretty. It would not be hard for her to marry an official's son in the future. Marrying an official like you would be worse than not marrying at all. Seeing that father and mother still refused, his face turned cold and he left. The next day, he brought a woman with him. This is the little girl's birth mother. She has come looking for her. Will you return the child or not? That woman did look somewhat like me. The moment she saw me, she cried, "Oh, my daughter, mother searched for you for so long. How did you end up here? These wicked people hid you away. My daughter is a little lucky star. They want to keep her all to themselves." Father was almost deceived. He stammered. But this child was picked up. Mother slapped the table. Nonsense. I dug this child out of the soil while digging ginseng. If she is your daughter, explain why you buried a perfectly good little girl in the ground. The woman did not speak. She only kept holding me and crying. Oh, daughter, you cannot refuse to recognize your own mother. To be honest, I truly did not know what my birth mother looked like. When she gave birth to me, she did not even know she had given birth to me. She had been playing around in the soil and fought with a very, very big black bug shedding many seeds. One of those seeds was me. What if this woman really was my mother? I blinked at her. You really are my mother? Then why didn't you take me away? She cried terribly. At that time, it was too hard and too chaotic. Mother did not know you had been lost. Good daughter, come back with mother first. Mother will slowly explain to you. I nodded. Father Lin and Mother Lin's faces turned white. They trembled and said nothing. I walked over and touched mother's belly. Do not be afraid, you will soon have your own little baby. Mother held me and refused to let go. Jen is mother's baby too. Father's expression changed several times. He could not be sure whether the woman before him was my mother, because even I did not know. He could only look hesitantly at me. Genjin, I said. I will go out with her first. The Lin family thought I was going with her. Their expressions were full of reluctance as they silently watched me. The woman was delighted. She held me and walked outside. Oh my, in the end, mother and daughter are closest. Those outsiders cannot compare. After only a few steps, a pit suddenly collapsed under her feet. She fell straight in. Then soil surged up and covered her tightly. When she was dug out, she had already fainted, her face carrying a pale, deathly color. The doctor, who had hurried over, pounded her for a long time before she finally spat out one breath. Then she scrambled and rolled away. Everyone said that pretending to be the little Lucky Star's mother truly could not be done. It could cost one's life. I will not do it anymore. Everyone was stunned and looked at me hesitantly. I blinked and said, she is not my mother. My real mother can stay buried in soil for hundreds of years and still jump around alive. She immediately rolled her eyes. That is true. I did not think she looked like a real mother either. What mother looks at a child as if looking at a gold ingot, wishing she could grab it and spend it at once? When she fell into the pit just now, she even wanted to cushion herself with the child. What kind of person did they find? Can someone just grab any random person and use them to take away the little Lucky Star? Everyone did not dare scold Magistrate Qian directly, so they scolded that impersonating woman in roundabout ways until Magistrate Qian could not remain. He flicked his sleeve and left. Father and mother were worried and discussed moving with grandfather and grandmother. They have their eyes on Zhen. I feel it is unsafe to keep living here. Let us move. All right, after we go somewhere new, we cannot be too ostentatious. Grandfather was also afraid something would happen to me, so the whole family secretly packed our luggage and prepared to leave at night. But we had not gone far when we met a group of bandits. They held knives and forced father and mother to hand me over. Father shouted unwillingly, "You failed to take her by day, and now you come rob her at night. Are you afraid we will not know who sent you?" The group suddenly understood. Kill them all, except for the little girl. Grandmother angrily slapped father on the head. You have been foolish your whole life. Must you show your cleverness now? At this moment I said, send me out. That bad lord's house has lots of meat. Mother was deeply reluctant. She held me and kept crying. I said again, I am willing to go myself, then they will not have to die. And so, I arrived at Magistrate Chan's household. His main wife held herself with dignity and did not come forward. The 8 concubines almost fought over me. Little girl, come with auntie. Auntie can make tasty pastries. Little girl, do you want this gold hairpin? I have more. Look at Auntie's big bed. Do you want to sleep on it? Magistrate Qian smiled broadly. With such a son-bringing lucky doll from now on, how many descendants could this official fail to have? I blinked at him. Then how many do you want? As many as possible. I am not some poor farmer from the countryside. No matter how many mouths there are, I can afford them. When the first concubine became pregnant, Magistrate Qian finally held his head high. He held a great banquet and told everyone he was not unable to have children. He had descendants now. When the second concubine became pregnant, the banquet was still grand. He was even prouder than last time. By the third, he was a little tired. By the fourth, fifth, and sixth, each banquet was smaller than the last, and fewer guests came each time. Because they were pregnant, the concubines privately kept giving me gold, silver, jewels, pastries, and bolts of silk. I carried everything back to the Lin family. Because I could burrow through the ground. The first time I appeared in the Lin family courtyard, they were building a swing in the little yard while saying, "Will Zhen like swinging?" I popped my head out from the corner of the courtyard. Yes, yes. Mother held me with tears in her eyes. How did you come back? I burrowed back through the earth. You are talking nonsense again. But they truly did not know how I came back. Now, however, they no longer asked. At a glance, I had a great background. Maybe I was a little fairy from heaven. If I did not say it myself, I must not be allowed to say it. What if I said it and flew back to heaven? Pretending to be a little foolish had no harm. Whatever they gave me, I moved back to the Lin family. The Lin family's days became unbelievably comfortable. But mother still held me and said, what if they discover it? Keep good things for yourself, darling. Do not always bring them back to father and mother. Father and mother have hands and feet. We can earn for ourselves. Still, there was not much left to move. Magistrate Qian's household gave birth one baby after another. Every concubine gave birth to more than one. They all smiled widely while holding their babies. Magistrate Qian's face, however, grew paler and paler. The houses in his residence could no longer hold everyone. Now when he walked on the street, his steps were weak. As he walked, he would suddenly stamp his feet again and again. Stop giving birth! Stop giving birth! Later, I heard he was arrested for embezzling court silver and privately accepting bribes. I once burrowed into the ground to see him and even left him a little food. I did not know whether he could fight the rats for it. Those rats were quite big, bigger than 3 of my little feet. In the 3rd year at the Lin family, the family bought a new house in town and renovated it. It was a 2-entry, 3-courtyard residence. The ground was paved with blue bricks, so water did not gather even when it rained. Little Aunt had given birth to 2 babies. Father and mother had given birth to a little brother. The family also had 2 little maidservants, round and soft. At a glance, they looked delicious enough to bite. Occasionally, old neighbors from the village who had been on good terms with us came to visit. Seeing the scene before them, they clicked their tongues and sighed. How did Yuanyang happen to bring such a treasure home back then? I go up the mountain every day. Only that one day I thought it was too hot and was too lazy to go. Not long after, an old Taoist came to the Lin house. He pretended to wave a bell at the gate for a while. Grandfather and grandmother did not understand and invited him in to speak. His cloudy eyes fixed on me. This is a demon. If it is not removed, sooner or later the family will be destroyed. What a pity! What a pity! Grandfather slapped him across the face. I do not know whether my family will be destroyed, but you are about to be. Grandfather and grandmother gave the old Taoist a fierce beating and drove him out, then told me not to go out for the next few days. I indeed did not go out. I always went out through the flower pot and returned through the flower pot. But unexpectedly, when I went out, the old Taoist caught me red-handed. He grabbed me, his eyes shining with greed. Tss. It is a ginseng spirit. If I use it to refine pills, would one pill not make me immortal? He held a black furnace and wanted to put me inside. I asked, why refine pills? Would it not be better to eat me directly? Refined pills are not as effective. Fresh is best. He seemed persuaded by me and decided to bring me to the imperial city to refine a longevity pill in front of the emperor. But meeting the emperor was not that easy. So he stuffed me into a sack and carried me to find a high official, wanting that official to recommend him. Where is the 1,000-year ginseng? The official's voice was very doubtful and a little familiar. The old Taoist said, it is in this sack. Only, this ginseng has already become a spirit and looks like a child. Open it first. The sack was opened, and I stuck out my head. The faces before me were second aunt and the uncle we had saved. The old Taoist had not even had time to grin and show his teeth before that uncle punched out half his teeth. He grabbed the old Taoist and beat him while saying, you dare abduct my family's child and call her some 1,000-year ginseng? You child-eating old demon! The old Taoist was beaten harshly, then paraded through the market with a board around his neck reading, abducting children. Along the way, he was nearly buried under rotten vegetable leaves and stinking eggs. Uncle said the old Taoist would spend the rest of his life in prison. Afterward, he looked at second aunt as if asking for credit. Then what reward will second aunt give me? Second aunt kicked him. It made him terribly happy. I stayed with the Lin family for several more years, and the Lin family grew better and better. Little Aunt's husband came here to serve as county magistrate. He was clever and honest. After all, his family was well off, and ordinary bribes simply did not catch his eye. After several years as an official, he was transferred to the capital. Second aunt's marriage was also settled, but she was very unwilling. She often borrowed the excuse of taking me out to play to try running away. Every time that uncle caught her back. In the end, she had no choice but to marry. Another spring came. The courtyard was full of flowers. Father measured my height and frowned. Why have you not grown these past 2 years? Because I was almost done setting seed. After I finished setting seed, I had to return to the soil and sleep. When I woke, I would come back to find them. On the day I left a courtyard full of flower pots. When they woke and saw I was gone, they were very sad. But soon they would not be sad anymore. They were about to have many of me. Plant one genjin in spring and many genzins would grow. Genjin would accompany them forever.